1.3 billion pieces of content hit Instagram every day. There's so much content happening per second. And these algorithms are crunching to show you what it thinks is most pleasurable. If I told you to get out your phone right now, before I finish this sentence, you could easily consume 15, 20 pieces of content. But what's the one that's gonna make you stop? What's gonna interrupt your pattern? What's gonna make you like or press a comment or click a button? I need to teach you that. If not, you will forever be one of the pieces of content that people scroll past. One of my mentors from afar is Seth Godin. And he says it's all about being remarkable. And that simply means worthy of a remark. Can you get a person to stop their life in order to say something back to you? And that starts the process of you being able to make the sales and then create the life that you desire.
Hey, entrepreneurs, it's Connie S and the S is for Systems. Today I have another friend / guest. You all know him. You all love him. It's Mahdi Woodard.
Dramatic. All the
I know.
dramatics.
You can't block me right now, though, so I feel like I could at least, I got a little leeway.
That's fair.
How
What's
you
up,
doing,
man?
friend?
What's up? I'm proud of
I'm
you.
excited. Thank you.
I'm proud of you. Happy for you.
I feel good. I'm excited for this, especially because I look around the room. Y'all can't see. But my friends are here.
Yeah, it's
so I
lovely.
feel really good.
It's
I'm
lovely.
going to try not to cry. Feel good. But tell the people who you are.
Why would you do that? So I'm Mahdi Woodard. I am a lot of things, but I would say as far as what's front facing for social, I'm an ex-corporate person who I won't even say try. I am in the process of distilling the knowledge that I've learned working with billion-dollar brands and translating that to people who are out here trying to figure out entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about simplifying information. I think a lot of this stuff has been locked in a box for quite some time, but we got direct to consumer via social media in a way that we've never had before. So I'm just out here trying to do my part. I'm part of the village.
You are part of the village, and you have an amazing village that loves and supports you.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go back a little farther before we start getting into your village, because people think that you their little friend that does marketing, their little cousin that does marketing. Oh, I know somebody that does yeah. They look at you like that sometimes. They don't mean to.
Yeah.
They don't mean to disrespect you like I did when I told you to go get the shirt out the car, because I just thought you was a little dude selling T-shirts out the car. I didn't know that you was coming from corporate, working for billion-dollar companies. So I know I'd like to publicly apologize to my dear friend Mahdi Woodard for trying to play him when I first met him and told him that he needed to make sure he had T-shirts on him for his brand, been broke before, and he needed to have them on him. And how dare you be an entrepreneur and not have these T-shirts? I was out of line. I did not know who he was, and I apologize. That's my public apology.
You are crazy.
I feel like,
but on the real, there's no fault in that, because I think when we meet people, yes, they're in a season, but you also are exposed to them at whatever level of information is available. So anybody that's an entrepreneur with a dream that especially has an apparel brand, I do think they should keep the apparel on them, right? It just led to us having more conversations beyond that, and I think that's sort of the second time of us meeting. You know what I mean?
And I also have to say, because I got to tell the backstory on some of this stuff.
Okay.
It just has to be said. And so, however we ended up Instagram. I think I was like, yeah, and so it was like, yeah, so I worked with this, and I've done this in the past, and I worked here. Have you ever heard of this company? Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever used a car seat before? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I helped design those back in my 20s a lot. I was like, wait a minute, what? I thought you sold T-shirts out your trunk, and you didn't have them that day when I was fussing at you. Like, yeah, no, that's me and my friend's company.
Yeah.
What I've done is this. I said, hey man, let's get on the phone.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And this is like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And I said, tell me all the words. Let me hear the words of what you've done.
Yeah.
And you read your resume. You read me for filth, reading out your resume, because I don't think people really comprehend how much knowledge comes behind the hoodies and the beanies and the skull. They don't know what you've really done. And from day one, my mantra for you has been, you need to let them know who you are.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bleeped. I bleeped myself. But because if people don't know what you've done or know where you've come from, they don't even know the level to be able to respect you on. So, I need you to run your resume.
That's like it's hard to do it for yourself. You know what I mean? But I think for the benefit of everybody listening. So I'm one of those kids that came from what we would call humble beginnings. Deep love in the family, but first generation of a lot of things. And so I excelled in academics and in athletics at that scary level. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was one of those kids that stayed on stage and all the awards and medals and stuff. And so that led to college. And when I was there, I was studying corporate finance and marketing. And I remember talking with a guy who, at the time, was the global president of what we call 𝗵𝗵𝗃 company, right? So just Mars, for lack of better words. And we were talking, and he said, hey, if you're good enough to do corporate finance, if you got those financial chops, you will excel like crazy in marketing. It's not just the creative part. It's the analytical rigor. The marketing people in corporate drive the entire business. And so I did my research and my crash course, and we got on a couple calls, and he kind of prepared me for what I was looking, like the path I was looking to go down. But I had no idea that every time you walk in a store, everything that you see on the shelf is there purposefully. Somebody has done the consumer research, someone has done the product design, someone is managing the supply chain, someone is thinking of everything is by design. And I became one of those people who was an architect in that process. And so the things I'm most proud of is, as part of these teams, I launched over 1,000 items in the market. We're talking Walmart, Target, right, that level.
I'm sorry, why are you pausing? I just wanted to make sure we were clear in that you launched how many?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000 what?
Products.
Into places like where?
All of the top stores in the world, okay. Right? So Walmart, Target. I started at Mars. I moved on to a company called Newell, and 13 different countries. So the cool part was also seeing that I'm a kid from the hood, but how do you travel to Italy, study Italian culture in order to best figure out what version of Papermate ink pen should you launch in Italy, right? Like that type of stuff. So I think when we talk about being part of the village, that was so normal to me that I didn't realize anything about that was abnormal. I'm more dangerous with $100 million or $200 million business than a startup, right? Nothing about it. If somebody walked in right now and said, I had a $50 million business, what do I do? I feel so confident. Like, just let me ask you about 7 questions and give me a notebook. You know what I mean? And so when we met, I was making the transition to entrepreneurship, and I was a fish out of water because the thought processes are different. The physical work is different. But yeah, in summary, I've been blessed to work on brands from 250 million to about 1.2 billion.
I'm sorry, what was the second part?
250 million to about 1.2 billion. All of the countries, all of the launches. And I would say the thing I'm most proud in corporate, I never had something late to market. You can't fathom how expensive it is. So think about Walmart. Walmart at this point, they might have 3,500 or 4,000 stores. Typically once per year, sometimes twice per year, they do what's called a planogram reset, meaning every part of every aisle is redesigned, restructured with new data based on what's selling, what's going in, what's going out. And you pay for these slot fees. So you have 50 items, you pay for them to be on the shelf. So if you miss the window, that's embarrassing to them. So they financially penalize you and you lose your slot to somebody that is ready. So to have over 1,000 launches and nothing ever be late, like that's a different level of project management and planning and teamwork that I was blessed to be part of.
You know, I'm just boiling on the side. I have so much stuff to say because when you, just that by itself. All right, everybody, I want to thank you all for coming out. Life with Systems, we're going to have a good, but the reality of what your life has been.
Yeah.
People see this, but they're not realizing what was happening on the back end. You're talking about 1,000 products.
Yeah.
People can't launch one product. I was supposed to launch this podcast about 3 years ago. What am I? I know I'm behind.
Yeah.
But the struggles that we have, many of us have it because we don't even have your expertise. Mm-hmm. And that also plays to your character as well. Somebody, corporate finance, You need to be over here. Matter of fact, can we hire you over here?
Yeah.
Because of the level of discipline that you have, your character that you have, and your ability to think creatively, but literally to be able to think and strategize. Going from corporate like that.
Yeah.
How has the transition been from corporate to entrepreneurship?
And this part people need to hear. I'm in my 8th year and I just now get it. Right? So it's not that I haven't had successes along the way, but I just now get it in the sense of who are the people that you're serving? What are the mentalities, the mindset, the beliefs, the skills, the gaps? And then how do you take all of that information and turn it into a product or into some messaging so that they can identify themselves and go, yes, me, I, gap, product fills gap, I need that, click button, right? Because you can't fathom how far away you are from the people when you're inside of corporate. We're crunching data in the tens and thousands and millions. For example, let's talk Italy, right? What would you imagine little kids, what would you imagine is the process that they learn how to write? So you got a child, right, actually? Yes. What was the process that you guys used to teach her how to write, going way back?
Paper and a pencil, so that way she could erase her mistakes. Okay. And she'd trace over letters to practice the words, sound the words out.
All right, what kind of pencil?
The only thing I could look at is 𝗵𝗺𝗴𝗶, probably the yellow ones.
Yellow one, okay. But did you start with the jumbo ones, or you go to the yellow ones?
The jumbo one.
Okay, jumbo, then the skinnier one, And then from pencil to what?
Mechanical pencil, and then to pen.
Yeah. So you would think, traveling around the world, that's how everybody learns how to write. That's not how it works in Italy, right? So yes, they learn with pencil, very small window. They actually learn with erasable pens. And they have to take, this is at the time I was there, this may have changed in the last 10 years. They take a writing and penmanship class and they graduate to a pen. But that means when we were running 𝗵𝗺𝗴𝗶, you want to know where the top place is, because I don't want to enter that market with a mechanical pencil when I should enter with an erasable pen. So 60% of erasable pen sales take place in one country. You think you need to know this information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but we're crunching at the country level. Data, right? Don't speak the language, but understand this goes back for generations that kids want to graduate into a pen. But now I got to think brand. If I can own the erasable pen, if I'm the entry thing that they learn to write with, and I can own the next pen that they graduate to, then I could have a customer for life. So should we sponsor the writing graduation so that they associate graduating with getting this pen? You feel me? For a whole country. And then that may be completely different with what you need to do in America or Mexico, et cetera.
But the strategy that goes behind that.
Yeah.
I can't even, and I'm kind of smart a little bit, but I can't even comprehend what those meetings look like. So people always say you got to get in the room.
Yeah.
What were those rooms like? What were those conversations like?
That's my biggest regret as far as going into entrepreneurship, that I lost access to those rooms. Because you're sitting with a subject matter expert in every field, and it's the best, right? So if you can imagine, not only do you want to be at a brand or a company, like let's say Coca-Cola Company. Coca-Cola Company owns 20 plus brands. So you want to be at the Coca-Cola Company working on the Coca-Cola brand or Diet Coke or Sprite. By the time we get down to honest tea, like, you feel me? But imagine sitting in a room where your salesperson, your finance person, your supply chain, your packaging and product R&D, your trademark, regulatory and compliance, all of them are you in their field. And so when you're dreaming of what's possible and you're talking about how do we develop an action plan, you having it at that level. So you understand the entire brand and sort of company ecosystem. But from a marketing standpoint, we own the relationship with the consumer. So you must study and ask questions and become one with them. If not, you don't achieve product market fit. As entrepreneurs, we only see this in a failed launch. At the corporate level, people get laid off. Companies shut down, right? Factories get closed down. Entire towns and ecosystems collapse because a lot of your factories are in rural towns. They may be 80% of the employer base. So if I get it wrong from my cubicle, Fort Smith, Arkansas, entire community collapses. So there's a different type of pressure. It's a different type of conversation.
Going from $1 billion conversations to $1,000 conversations. You need a drink, bartender. Where's the bartender?
Bartender.
It's been, I know.
Yeah.
Because I got to watch this journey and to see the light bulbs go on. And for as brilliant as you are, I'm like, even let's use corporate, for example.
Yeah.
People saying, yeah, man, because I used to work in corporate. Oh, you worked in corporate too? Yeah, me too. Yeah. And then one day you were like, I just talked to somebody and they said they worked at corporate and they were talking about like being a sales manager or working in a restaurant or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You're like, they considered that corporate. I was like, well, yeah, because it's not entrepreneurship. Where else does it fall? And the crushed look on your face.
Because this is that process of unlearning. And I don't want anybody to take this and think that I'm being condescending when I'm saying it's just as far to go from walking down the street with $1,000 brand and somebody pluck you into $1 billion company. It's just as difficult to do the reverse. Primarily because we don't have, as entrepreneurs, especially those of us bootstrapping, we don't have access to the same resources. We don't have access to the same data, right? So we're just sort of doing the best we can with what we have. Over there, you got access to everything, right? So in entrepreneurship, we say, you better execute. Execution matter. In corporate, ideas matter because we know we're going to execute. So you're paying people to come up with better ideas than other people because execution is not a problem. 50,000 employees here. They're waiting to be told what to do, but you got to get it right. So taking those things and moving them from philosophy into daily practice in order to understand the people you serve and that you're developing classes and courses and, t-shirts and retreats for. It's that same discipline. But I would say I overcomplicated in the beginning because of the scale. I was still thinking that the same risk applied and that, you know what I mean? Like I didn't quite get that part right.
When I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
Because I know it's been rough and it's hard to see because you're so smart and because you have so much knowledge and because you genuinely care about the community. Yeah. There's never in all of these years been a conversation you're like, it's about the bag. I want to make all the, it's literally, how do I help our community? What can I do to give back? Whether it was from been broke before, and we could talk about that as well if you feel comfortable, to the services that you offer, you used to do, what, $200 phone calls?
Man, this is not a game. I had my cell phone number in my bio. I would answer questions for free all day, and I would do 2-hour strategy calls for $200 and give you a 3-year marketing plan for your business.
I will flip all this stuff over.
But that to me was the market research, right? Like, let me just understand and talk because I don't think we understand how far off we are, right? So what we now say DIY, do it yourself, DWY, DFY, you got to put that in the appropriate buckets. I'm looking around, nobody would know. They just like, oh, this light look good. Yeah, that Aperture 600D about $2,000 times 2. That's why it looked like that.
It looks lavish.
Right? But if you were at home with some a dream and you had an iPhone and a ring light or an iPhone and a big window, you got to make it do what it do. If you get those two people confused, you will be talking about a light they can't afford, trying to force that into them seeing their dream being connected to this light, and they just not there yet. You're better off saying, listen, if you got between this budget and this budget, here is your, in tech, we would call it your tech stack, right? But here's your products or resources at this level. If you're in this level, it's at this level, right? But if you get these things wrong, you will be screaming into the valley of social media and nothing will be bouncing back. And you won't know why that's happening like that.
What do you think? Because I know social media is really new, like us being a brand and us marketing ourselves. Yeah. Most people don't even understand what marketing means. Could you explain marketing?
Yeah, so marketing is a word. Here's why, right? It has a double meaning. Marketing applies to the discipline as well as the act. But the easiest way to break it down is marketing is distilled into the 4 P's. Product, which is what is it that we're making? And I would say people should be very clear on what they're not making. You need to have an exclusion list, things we are not doing, not offering, right? So product, And then we have price, but price is not fixed. Price is on a spectrum, right? The Coca-Cola at the convenience store is the same Coca-Cola at Six Flags, but the occasion changes the price. You feel me?
Yeah.
So product, price, promotion, which is most commonly what people refer to as marketing, the act of doing it. And then lastly, place. So I tell people promotion, you can't buy what you've never heard of. And place, you can't buy what you cannot find, right? But those four things are married to each other and they're tied to the person or people that you're serving. So the same way that people got a $2,000 budget for all of their needs, you can't sell them a $2,000 light, right? That would not be the product, the price, the promotional strategy for that group of people. You know what I mean?
So how do we get marketing and promotion mixed up? Where do we go wrong as a people?
As a people. So humans, my bad. We like shortcuts, right? And we also just naturally, we never go hard into the origin of stuff. We just trying to pick up and do, especially as adults. We're so inundated with information. We're like, what's the least amount of information that I need to take a step, right? And so over time, this thing gets cut down. Even like content, which I'm known for. Content is content marketing, but marketing got dropped off. And content marketing is a promotional strategy along with advertising, along with PR, along with television, print, outdoor. And then content is just one of those things. So part of why people are frustrated and confused and heartbroken to a degree is you're doing a portion of a bigger thing and you're not aware that that's where it belongs.
How will we ever know?
I mean, we just got to keep talking and teaching, right? Like it is what it is. And one thing I want to apologize for in this season of my life is I would say this and I mean it. Entrepreneur is a professional sport, but amateurs are encouraged to play. You will lose your mind, you will lose your money, you will lose your time, you will lose your confidence just because you decide to jump out here with a dream. This is a dog-eat-dog sport. And the barriers to entry are so low. So I'm not going to discourage you from playing, but you better jump in the game and calibrate yourself.
So what would that look like for somebody just starting their business? I just got to make content, and then people gonna buy my lip gloss line. They're gonna whatever because my friends like it and my mama like it. What's advice for somebody just starting out that don't understand the difference between all of those 4 P's?
Find somebody with the information that you need, right? And so there's a way. Just think about what the questions might naturally be. In the old days, we would go to Google or YouTube. In the new days, you can go to ChatGPT. You can literally say, I'm about to start a X business. I don't know where to start. What questions should I ask, right? So you can start there, but you need to find a person, a program, or something that has the information that you need, somebody that has the integrity that you want to model. And then we can talk about the income. I posted something today that was reposted from someone else that said, the first 5 years aren't about getting rich, they're about getting good. And so we create these artificial timelines as well that add stress and anxiety to our life. But if you're just getting started, you have to start where you are. And I would say entrepreneurship and social media at large is an open book test. And you have to be crazy to fail an open book test.
Integrity.
Yeah.
That's a real word. And I don't think people talk about it very often. I think that like, just be a good person, make sure you're not mean to people, do right by, but integrity is a word in its own.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
I would take where you're starting and I would just add one more piece, right? I think integrity is what happens when it goes wrong. How do you respond to it? How do you face it? How do you correct it? I've found that humans are very forgiving if honesty is the vehicle that we're traveling in. If you say that was not my intentions, here's what I intended, how do I make it right? People are very forgiving, right? But integrity, like character, is really about doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And we can say that right is subjective, but for the most part, don't quit playing with folks, right? And again, when you get some things wrong, just face it. We all out here figuring this thing out.
Do you feel like you've gotten some things wrong in this journey?
Yeah, for sure. Out of order, maybe even deeper, you know what I'm saying? Like, so for example, I have a business mentor, right? Where we're talking about in the millions and billions. I've got a life mentor but I did not have an entrepreneur mentor equal to their caliber. So they were lending their wisdom to me, but they couldn't give me what it was going to take to walk the steps. So a lot of things I got out of order. The first one, and we laugh about it, but I literally assumed this is my company and this company has work that it needs to do. Therefore, if it's my company, then I must be the person that does the work. And so an example, when I was still driving back to my corporate job, I did about an hour of traffic in the morning, about an hour 15 of traffic in the evening. But I couldn't book my schedule while driving. That was a task that needed to be done and I thought I needed to do because I didn't know that there was a person called a virtual assistant who could look through inquiries and put things on a calendar and you could decide how my life needs to manage. All I had to do was give you the parameters. So I'm waiting until I got home to catch up on stuff and people may have moved on or, that type of stuff. So you don't realize in those small steps that that belief system will go into every other part of your business and you will spend time and take pride and if not careful, take residence in places that you should only be visiting.
Give me an example of that.
Let's go deeper. At this stage in my life, if the company needs something to be done, I know it can't start with me, right? Versus I used to take pride in it starting with me, right? Let's do something as simple as this. If I wanted to figure out how to best light a podcast, I'm going to find somebody's podcast that's well lit. I'm going to reach out to them and ask, can I pay you or whoever is responsible for this to teach the appropriate person how to do this thing? Versus I would have went to YouTube, spent 3 hours. I would have went to the camera store, looked at lights. I would have did all of that. And you don't realize that your time is also money. So that entire learning journey to feel proud that you know how to light something takes 6 hours, 8 hours. But to pay for that knowledge might have took a couple $100. You lost thousands, right? Thinking that it would be the right thing to do to go on your own little journey. But that's the evolution. So imagine for the last 8 years, I've been functioning in every role when I should have been functioning in the role of the CEO.
One of the things you said to me, and it's actually on my
oh God,
on my Sisters of the Day workshop, is that everybody shouldn't be a CEO.
Yeah,
that may not be the best role for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've had time during this journey over these last 8 years to decide what role you really feel like you fit in.
Yeah.
And when we bust down that org chart on you.
Oh yeah.
When Stephanie and Candace got to moving stuff around,
turned me every which way but loose.
I'm talking about you could see his eyes like.
Shout out to Stephanie and Candace. You gotta look.
Don't make me fight you on this.
No, I'm saying you got a good ass thing. Part of my language. Amazing women.
Thank you. I appreciate that. They are brilliant and kind, and I'm honored to have them on my team.
Tell Stephanie cash at me for that. I love it. I love them to life, for real, for real.
I know you do. I know, and they genuinely love you. Now I forgot what I was talking about. Come on, ADHD.
You think I remember it?
Of course not.
I
want to thank everybody for coming out.
One of the things in your systems in the day about being
a CEO.
Yes,
about the being a CEO. And I think everybody believes that because you're the founder, because those two different roles, founder and CEO, two different things. They believe that because they are the founder, that they must be the CEO. And you said, that may not be the best role for you if you're being honest with yourself. And I think because most people don't look at a job description, they don't even know what a CEO is. They have no idea what tasks are required of an actual CEO. What has that journey to decide what role you wanted to have look like?
So definitions are real, right? So when I was writing some of this stuff, I would say it was more spiritual than anything. Like God is the ghostwriter, my hand just doing this. So even as I was writing stuff, sometimes it applied to me, sometimes it didn't. Over time, you realize, oh, okay, God, you funny. All of this applied to me, right? So for me, I think let's first talk about what a CEO is. That term, it really don't even belong in entrepreneurship, you know what I'm saying? Because about 90% of our companies don't have employees. So yeah, you're the de facto CEO, but like, the CEO is the leader of the leadership team, chief executive officer, running the whole company. Primarily got three main things that they need to do: develop, cascade, and sort of manage the vision so everybody know where we're going. Ensure we got the right resources. So that's financial resources, people resources, the right resources. You know what I mean? And then the last part, deeper than that, is your job as a CEO is to make or raise the money. Quit playing. So your vision got to be so tight and your team got to be so structured that people feel comfortable putting money into this vision. So most people not that. Or at a minimum, they're not that yet. And you got to grow into that thing. You know what I'm saying? So for me, my core skill set is in marketing. I've done people leadership. I've led cross-functional teams, but I hadn't led other people who had led companies or led teams. And so what I love about entrepreneurship, it's the most, if you need some humility, just decide that you want to start your own business. And big God gonna be like, all right, well, I'll start you here, right? Because it's gonna walk you through all those things. So for me, getting clear on that, understanding how do you develop a vision big enough that people will want to latch on to it. You know what I'm saying? People pay their mortgage and take care of their entire family because we've created a vision big enough for them to see themselves inside of it. Like, that's a real skill. This ain't just a whiteboard exercise. Right. A lot of people, humble opinion, a lot of people burn out on social and they burn out with their business because it ain't got enough runway anyway. So you're trying to force what is a 1-year business. You're trying to force the success into a month. Do you know how to develop a 5-year plan, a 5-year vision, a 10-year vision? What does that even look like? Like, do you know how to visit, as my boy Marcus say, visit the future? So can I look at the data of what's around me and develop a roadmap and some products and a whole ecosystem that meets up? Like, we develop things that need to align with when the time gets there. You feel me? Mm-hmm. And again, not to be discouraging, but we got to stop just making up names for ourselves and get back in our studies. Because you're using your real money and you're using your real time and all of that stuff. You must study. You must study.
How much time do you spend studying?
All day. Quit. But like, for real, and we had that conversation on live, me, you, and Nikki before, but like, if I'm not reading a book or going back to something that I've read or listening to a podcast or listening to some other people that I admire and really studying, but you must go in with the idea of the things that I currently believe to be true. I must be willing to question them. And if it comes down to it, I must be willing to take my beliefs out to the back shed and shoot them and establish some new beliefs. But I study all day. If I had to put it in hours, at least half my waking hours, I'm consuming information at the level of studying to make sure that the company, me, and everything around us is prepared for where we're going.
How much time do you think the average entrepreneur spends doing research? The level of research that you and Nikki were both talking about.
Like, they don't realize that they're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe a fraction, 5 or 10% of the time. And so if you're not going to study, you must at least practice. Right? I prefer you do both. I prefer you go take some information, try to make something with it, get some feedback. But like, you must at least practice. So where I got known for telling people to post 3 to 5 times per day, it's not a punishment, it's a practice. It's a discipline. If you don't got the money, you got to have the time. And so let's use that time to practice. So I say, if you didn't study marketing, sales, communications, PR, psychology, English, chances are you've never learned how to arrange your words in a way that can make a person take an action. Because humans, we don't communicate like that. The biggest breakdown of relationships, both romantic and platonic, is misunderstanding. Meaning what I'm trying to say and what you hear, we cannot get on the same wavelength. So then you want to take your lack of communication skills and project them to the masses. That's crazy talk. And the old me wouldn't have felt good saying this. I would have felt like, I don't want people to feel like I'm shaming them. But 8 years in, I don't have time for people to play with their dreams and play with their skills because they refuse to do the work. You must study.
We say it. It's hard to help people.
Yeah.
Because they come to us, help me.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, here's the help.
Yeah.
They're like, no, but I want you to help me.
Yeah.
This is the help. Read this. Yeah. Here, I prepared this for you. You asked me 2 weeks ago, And I created this for you.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, I see that there. Help me. Why are we like that? Why are people like that? Why aren't they taking the things that you offer? Because I've watched you for years get on lives. You done made these cheap, inexpensive, quality products.
I tried to make learning approachable and open to everybody because there's a part of me, how I was raised and mentored, like really you just a part of the village. You don't know how much time you have. I wasn't raised to be a hardcore capitalist, so it was never about maximizing profit. So I'm like, I know I got this gift. I know I got access to this information, and I love the people in that sense, right? So like, I almost felt an obligation to make it approachable, right? I now feel the opposite in the sense that if instead of me going down to help the person who's just beginning, if I now lead the leaders and price it appropriately, we'll have the money and we'll have the resources to then operate at scale. So when you say what you got wrong, I got my pricing structure inverted. I started low and tried to work my way up to high. I should have did it the opposite way. Tesla is a great example of that. Tesla didn't start with the everyday car that we see people in. They started with the Tesla Roadster. They wanted to say, we're getting into electric and people don't think electric can be fast. People don't think electric can be luxurious. So let's start and dispel both of those myths. Let's create a premium product that gives us enough money and resources to then innovate back down to the everyday consumer. And then you were able to create something that had enough talk value for investors to put more money into it, and that had enough profit baked into it for you to then say, now how do we work back down that pricing tier?
I think that when we're looking at it, because I'm the opposite, right? I am high ticket, right? And so then me going to try and make a $297 product, it tanked.
Yeah.
And I also know that my messaging is poor, and how dare I know you? And
not poor, different, right? The person that would pay you $50,000, and the person that you were trying to sell something to $300, those two people could not be further from the same person. And so if you will use $50,000 messaging for the person at $300, right? So if your core messaging is, here's how I'm able to live my entire life because I have systems in place. So I'm able to spend time with my daughter. I'm able to go out of town. I'm able to spend time with my friends. I'm able to spend time with my spouse, whatever that messaging may be. To a person who's trying to find the $300, that's so far from attainable that you're saying vacation. But for the entrepreneur that's got a small team who hasn't been able to take a vacation, they're now saying, I can see myself in her lifestyle. I should make this investment because it'll free up my time to get that vacation. Versus the other person probably can't even fathom of that. So they both need systems, but the relatability of the message, talking to two different people, or they're in two different stages in their life.
I received that.
You know what I mean?
I have not practiced that very well because, I mean, this is 17 years and I've never had to ask for a sale.
That's beautiful.
So I think
like you like stopping people. You hear yourself? You know what I mean? Like, because 17 years need to be put in context. So you got 12 months in a year. All right. So we talking about almost you 200 or so months. And you haven't had to market aggressively in order to get a, like, you know what I mean? You feel me?
That's
amazing.
You said,
but that's a testament to the work, though, for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm still working through imposter syndrome. Do you ever struggle with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, but differently.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yours is probably the reverse.
You need to stop. Quit
I
playing.
know.
But imposter syndrome is real. But I got my greatest. This is a good one. I got my greatest experience with imposter syndrome when I got into photography. Because prior to anybody meeting me on the internet, I had already had a 4-year degree and I already had 8 years of corporate marketing experience. So by the time you meet me on the internet, I already know this stuff. But me getting into photography, I don't even know where to put my hands, right? It's so many buttons and the time of day. And then this is because people, I'm not going to assume that everybody listening knows me. I take pictures of birds. You know the difference between bird photography and human photography?
Birds is fast.
Bro, listen, you have absolutely no control over what they're going to do. Humans, if you get it wrong, so behind the scenes stuff, and there's some behind the scene cheat codes in photography. So when you're trying to master exposure, right, which is the way ultimately the image is going to look, you can decide whether you want to shoot in automatic or manual, right? But one of the hacks when you're just starting is, let's say you're learning manual, so you're controlling the exposure triangle. You can take a picture in automatic and have a starting point. And then you can say, I want to tweak this, take this up, take this down, et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. You try to take a picture of a bird in automatic mode. Like when I bring my friends out to, the birds are moving so fast. One of the things we talk about is shutter speed. So how long will light, the sensor be exposed to light? Like how long would that take? But the faster something moving, the faster the shutter speed needs to be. Humans, we can take pictures. In this light right here, they can take a picture of you at 1/250th of a second. If you try to take a picture of a bird and you will get a branch.
It's gone.
You at 1/6000th of a second.
Oh.
You feel me?
It's a little bit more.
So, and then you don't get a do-over. You can't be like, scoot a little bit to the left, step forward. Oh, perfect, chin down, right? So I didn't even know what I was getting into, but it was humbling because I'm in the middle of the woods. I'm not an outdoors person. I've got equipment I don't know what I'm doing with yet, right? And something just calling me to be out here. Then you go do what you feel like. You took something you feel proud of, so proud that you posted on the internet. And then the algorithm say, oh, you like this type of stuff? Let me show you what it should look like. So you talk about imposter syndrome. I'm looking at these. I'm like, y'all had to stage this. What I didn't realize is 2 years later and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of shots, you get it. So back to that, why I don't have a lot of sympathy. You got to put that work in. And we talk like people, we friends. So I'm calling you at 7:30 in the morning. I just got a female cardinal perched in right?
It looks great. Ting.
But my entire life had to change. Birds are most active at sunrise and sunset. You need to be in the park when the sun rises at 6:58 or 7:32. You need to be where you need to be. So I had to reorient my whole life in order to do my hobby. And then that level of coming back, showing your work, seeing somebody else, that was the first time in a long time that I felt like an imposter. I still struggle to call myself a photographer. Like I have to modify it. I'm a wildlife photographer. I'm a bird photographer. Because I'm scared if somebody asks me a general photography question, I can't help you. Or somebody be like, hey, take a picture with your cell phone. The composition is different. I'm frustrated. I'm sweating. It's too much. Give me a bird. Take out running and fly. I got you. But I say that to say to the entrepreneurs on this journey, there's value in looking to the left and the right, but there's more value in just putting your head down. So find, again, that person, find those communities, and then you must, they've done the work. That's why they're here teaching and telling you this. And then you got to do your work.
First of all, you do call early in the morning with these birds. I love you, friend.
You got to be able to wake your friend up out your sleep because you saw a red-shouldered hawk.
And you be so excited.
Yeah.
Years of excitement over these birds. Now I see birds everywhere. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about everywhere. We pull it over on the side of the road, me and Ashley. My dear would love this bird.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that when you first started the Atlanta Birdman page was, I just want to post the pictures of the things that I think it wasn't about, and I'm going to grow. This is good. Yeah. That wasn't there originally.
For sure.
I'm creating this page. I want to make sure that I'm posting, being consistent like you make everybody else do, because 3 to 5 posts a day, well, you had the whole internet in the chokehold about how much you was telling them to post. But the amount of discipline that you had to have in order to still do the same strategy that you taught other people. And then to see when you first told everybody on your regular page, hey, everybody, I got 1,000 followers on my bird page. And they're like, yeah, probably because you already did that. You did whatever. Like, no. I've taken thousands of pictures at this point. Y'all get 10 pictures. I've taken 10,000 pictures. Why do you think people struggled so much to even believe that was possible, that you grew that page organically?
Because oftentimes, like, the work happens when nobody's paying attention, right? So because I wasn't taking them out there with me, they're just seeing the other side of it, right? The other part is like back to the integrity piece. There are plenty of people that'll just go buy some followers. There are plenty of people. There's more people in the world trying to cheat than there are people trying to go the long way. And so you having a hard time with that. Additionally, you're doing what you might feel like is the work. But I'm gonna tell you something, and this is real. You know what happened for me to get the most amount of followers per post. Like on one post, it brought in, I think, about 1,500, 2,000 followers. I paid for a class from an expert wildlife videographer, and I went and trained under him and learned, and I formatted my camera, and I did everything he told me to do. So it's the same, like this ain't me. These are the principles. I did what I'm telling everybody else to do, which is why I genuinely wholeheartedly believe it.
So I'm going to transition a little bit, because I know, one, the journey of getting started is one thing, but the journey of growth. And so in this last couple of years, we've seen AI go crazy. And I remember when we like, yo, you seen this ChatGPT thing? Bro, go download it, go down the app and send the pictures and screenshots. This is what it looks like. It's gonna be a bunch of duplicates. And the amount of excitement that we had when that first came out. And of course you went crazy. Like I don't even know if you slept for the first month, but the amount of research that you did, and you done broke chat a couple times. What made you decide, yo, this is it right here?
So part of this is paying attention to the world around you and then studying the past. So every so many decades, you get things that literally throw like civilization into an entire different age. So the color TV, right? Revolutionized marketing, the internet. AI is more than anything we've ever seen before. So I knew what the signs were. You know what I mean? So, and for perspective, no cap. I first heard of ChatGPT October, November of 2022. I spent at least 2 hours per day since then. 18 months or so. You know what I mean? Like since then, because I understand just how much it's going to revolutionize our everyday life. And then on a very like detailed thing as it relates to content, you don't have to think the way you think and work the way you work. You're using old, archaic thought processes and systems in a way that like this thing will free you. I can take, for example, I can take a transcript of this conversation, put it into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm Connie. I just interviewed Mahdi and this is our first episode. Based on these questions, what should I prepare for our second interview? And it'll list them out. And you can say, hey, which areas do you feel like we could have delved deeper into in order to help the audience get this takeaway? And it'll say, right? And you can say, hey, we had 3 cameras. One was face on, 2 was facing both people. How do we maximize the amount of pieces of content? Right? So, but you have to know that you can ask it these things. You got to know that you need to think these things. And it'll take a lot of the manual thinking part off of us so that we can do what we need to do best.
So what are you planning to do with AI?
I'm taking this, and speaking of distilling it down, I'm taking what I've done over the last 18 years, and I'm about to be screaming from the mountaintops. My core within all things marketing and all things content is messaging. So I'm going to teach people how to use what you've seen me do, the exact ways in which I communicate, plus the speed of AI in order to fine tune your messaging so you can actually get what you want from people, be it a follow, be it engagement, be it a purchase. And we don't have time for me to try to lead you to water. Use these prompts for these reasons to get these outcomes. And so, yeah.
Why is messaging so important though? Because most people are like, just put up a sales page and just tell them what product you have and it's a call to action. And then there you go.
So let's speak math, right? Let's just use Instagram to simplify things. 1.3 billion pieces of content hit Instagram every day.
Sheesh.
Right? There's so much content happening per second. And these algorithms are crunching to show you what it thinks is most pleasurable. If I told you to get out your phone right now, before I finish this sentence, you could easily consume 15, 20 pieces of content. But what's the one that's going to make you stop? What's going to interrupt your pattern? What's going to make you like or press a comment or click a button? I need to teach you that. If not, you will forever be one of the pieces of content that people scroll past. One of my mentors from 𝗶𝘁𝗴𝗏𝗪𝗏, and he says it's all about being remarkable. And that simply means worthy of a remark. can you get a person to stop their life in order to say something back to you? And that starts the process of you being able to make the sales and then create the life that you desire.
First of all, I love the Remarkable, not just because I'm holding one. Come on, throw an ad on here for Remarkable.
Come on.
But I never thought about it that way, right? For someone to stop and actually make a remark, because your page, they can't wait to make a remark.
It's a circus. I love my people. I got the best community on the internet.
Literally, they are crazy people. I love y'all. Don't come out. You know, this is my friend. But the way that they stand up for you, because they know that you care about them and you've sown this seed. And I know the ups and downs and the journey. And we've been rocking for some time. But it is a journey. For sure. And this is literally just the beginning of it. So what are you looking forward to?
Beautiful question. Personally, I'm looking forward to, like, I've got a sample of what it's like to work with people that you respect and admire, right? And Q, that's on my team, right? I told her she restored my faith in humans. If you would have told me that I'm going to pay you through the internet and not see you, and all the work going to get done, and you're going to make all of the meetings and all the deliverables, I wouldn't believe you. She made me a believer that there are people who thoroughly enjoy helping you with your mission. They've done their work separate of you. They're going to do their work if you stop doing your work. But you guys will be more powerful doing work together, right? So I'm most excited for this season of being the CEO, where I can say, what do you need from me in order to do what you do best? And then how quickly can I get out of your way, right? So the answer is yes. Any technology, any conference, anything that you need to do, I'll go figure out the bigger business solution so that we can keep moving forward, because we got people to serve.
First of all, this is recorded. Do we have everything being recorded right now? I just want to make sure that we have it on record.
Yeah.
Because I know what the struggle is of trying to get out of the way of doing all the tasks.
Yeah.
And what's my thing? It's just tasks.
Yeah. It took a long time to understand and see it that way.
It's just tasks, man.
Yeah.
And when you're great at so many things, most people aren't great at anything. And then there's people that are great at some things, or one thing, and then some things, and then many things. But you've been great in most things for all of your life. So I know that personally, this has been a struggle. I know I've gotten the late night, early morning phone calls of, bruh, I got it. Oh man, I know you said this 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Seeing those light bulbs go off has been, like, I've been honored to see that behind the scenes. Because people just
can I give y'all flowers real quick? Not to cut you off. Part of the exercise that we did in developing the org chart was all the stuff that needs to be done. And then who does it and what do we call this person? What you learn is that if you're going to occupy the CEO seat, then all of those things are not your task. So you're in somebody's way. And you got all these things that are your tasks that you're neglecting. Would you like to be this role? Because if so, there's a role for it. Yeah. And then you got to go find a CEO. Or would you like to be this role, right? But sometimes you have to write it out, spell it out, make it plain, and be able to look at it and then choose and make peace with your choice. You know what I mean?
And I know that's hard. Because that org chart be wiping people out. It's a
beautiful journey. It's an amazing experience to go through.
I'm proud of you.
I appreciate it.
Cue the music. I'm so
dramatic.
No, y'all don't.
All the drama.
Nobody
we coming full circle. We starting and ending with
nobody
you being,
have a
with you being dramatic.
Jukebox. They don't use those anymore, do they?
Your age is showing.
Oh. Again, thank you, Fred.
I appreciate you.
I'm so proud. This has been beautiful. I thank you for coming. I knew that I wanted to make sure, especially in our first launch of this, is that you were on there, because the people would have probably burned the building down if they didn't see Mahdi walking in the door. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Hope you got something that you needed. I know that you did, because I did as well. This is Connie S with Life with Systems podcast. Love y'all.